confirm that in accordance with the articles, we meet the requirement of a quorum, which is 10 full members, and I therefore declare the meeting open. And I'm told I need to ask for approval that the notice convening this meeting be taken as read, and so all those in favour? Me again? Okay, thank you. Today's agenda. Our articles, we held an election for a director to represent market practitioner members, and as I said earlier, Birrell was uncontested, so continues to represent the market practitioner members. Full member director representation is Catherine Bell, Mark Birrell, who's unable to be here, Charles Earle, myself, and Jeff Turner. As per the articles, 2 further directors are appointed to represent the 2 largest members, and these are Karen Beales of UK General and Jonathan Skinner of Penn. Sadly, John can't be with us today. Keith Stern of Lloyds continues to represent Supplier members. The board can appoint up to 2 directors who have the relevant skill and experience, and these appointments are for a maximum of 12 months, ending on the date of the AGM, and they're eligible to be reappointed by the newly elected board. The board committees, the membership and benefits, conduct and ethics, legal, regulatory compliance, and the executive and finance. Now I'd like to turn our attention to the committee reports. Catherine Bell has normally chaired the Membership and Benefits Committee, but for circumstances beyond her control, Jeff Turner has taken that over, for at least for the time being, and he will be presenting the review of that committee's work. Before he does, though, I just thought I'd run through the current membership and give you an update. The association started in September 2011 with 40 members. We now have 119 full members, and they're supported by 34 market practitioner members and 43 supplier members. Our full members are writing in excess of £3.6 billion of GWP, and so are a major force in the UK market. Anyway, I'd now like to ask Jeff to take over and tell us a bit about the works of the membership.
I'll do my best. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. First and foremost, I'd like to, Catherine Spade can't be with us today. I'd just like to thank on behalf of the committee and the board her work, commitment, and the enthusiasm that she's brought to the role over the last 3 years. She's really helped drive the committee and the association forward, so thank you to Catherine for that. Ultimately, the Membership and Benefits Committee is always looking at ways to develop and improve both what we do and how we do it on behalf of our membership. We are always looking at ultimately providing added value and commitment to what we consider to be the MGA community. As Charles has already mentioned, we now have 119 full members. This is, it hasn't increased by number that much over the last couple of years, but a lot of that is predominantly down to mergers, acquisitions, and the like. But we continue to move forward, and we're very pleased about that. With regards to market briefings and events, and again, we've worked pretty hard over the last few years to improve them, both in terms of the structure and content. We've tried to make them more informative, and I think that certainly with things like the Shape and Share events that we've held, I don't know if anyone's attended those, but those certainly, the feedback we've got from those has been tremendous and considered very useful. We have have our talent initiative, which I believe on 15th of March in Lloyd's, which is for the younger up-and-coming members, which I believe is the third year we've held that. It's been a huge success, and we'd really like to thank Lloyd's and Keith for organising that for us. One of the areas that we are looking to add to that is actually a regional event by a composite insurer. So we're hoping to run 2 a year, one in London under Lloyd's and one regional through a composite insurer. We have our social event on the 23rd of March. Now, we haven't held that for a couple of years. The last one, as many of you remember, was in the House of Parliament, which was a great evening and a great social event. It is our intention to make this an annual event at different iconic London locations. Beaver, well, we're now very well established at Beaver. Those of you who have attended over the last few years have seen the stand, which is now very prominent, and also it's given some of our smaller members the ability to use it as a marketing area for themselves. We have our 3rd annual conference coming up in July. Again, this is an area where we continually look to improve. We've taken feedback from the last couple of years, and we feel that we're working hard to ensure that it continues to deliver and improve as the years go on. Yeah, the association works very closely with many entities that are involved in the MGA market. We've had some great success with the likes of the FCA to the degree that now they seem to, not only do they understand what an MGA is, but they're looking to work closer and closer with us, and they actually contact us when something comes across their desk with regards to delegated underwriting. So that's been a big win. And we now feel that Lloyd's are also embracing the association and the membership a lot more seriously. So we'll continue to work with all of those parties. Things like the newsletters is something that I know many members like. They appreciate both the compliance and the regulatory side of things. And generally we're trying to keep the membership as informed as much as we can. But if there's any ideas or any areas where membership feel that they would like to see more or less of, please do get in touch with us, because ultimately, as an association, we are here to serve you and to serve the MGA community, so it's very important to us. I think the last point is really with regards to social media. Now, I don't understand most of things on the social media, but I get the impression it's increasingly important in today's world. We restructured the website a couple of years ago, and actually the traffic on the website continues to improve literally quarter by quarter. We monitor it on a monthly basis, James, every aspect. So as you can see, the numbers there have improved greatly. The other areas, as I say, I don't really understand, but James is a lot more au fait than I am, and we're getting increased traffic in all of those respects. So I think that really covers it from my perspective. But as I say, I would like to go back to the fact that as an association, we are here to serve you, and if there's anything that you feel that you'd like us to do, if there are areas that you're not comfortable with us, or where you'd like to see improvement, please do knock down the door and give us a shout. So, thank you.
Any questions of Jeff before we
I wasn't expecting questions. Thank you.
Right, thanks. The Conduct and Ethics Committee is chaired by Charles Earle, and Charles will do a review of that.
I can see your notes in this slightly dim lighting in. Ethics keeps most of us in the dark most of the time, really. As a committee, we've continued to meet regularly during the last year. The membership has changed, with Bill O'Malley and of Arch and Mark Birrell of Castell joining us. Mark joined us but briefly before moving on to chair the Legal and Regulatory Committee in September of last year. So thanks to all my committee members. All members sign up to the MGAA's Code of Ethics for members on joining, and they renew that commitment with their annual membership each year. Now, the Association's code isn't intended to replace a member's own code of ethics for their business, but it's not expected that they're in conflict or contradictory. Our committee's role is to manage the Association's Code of Ethics and the associated discipline procedures and processes that back it up, to recommend changes in the code and those processes to the board. We haven't recommended any changes during the last year, and to investigate any complaints against members that might involve a breach of the code. Both members and non-members can and do draw attention to what they consider to be ethical behaviour issues on the part of a member. I think experience proves that it can be a bit tempting to involve us at every disappointing interaction, and while we're happy to take a look at issues because we can learn from them and to understand why disappointments arisen, we can only act strongly if there's been a clear and evidenced breach of the published code. That's our mandate. During the last year, we looked actively at a small number of potential issues of an ethical nature and looked at actual specific complaints activities of an even lower number. And any members involved where actual complaints have been made have either helped us resolve any issue rapidly, or we're waiting for that member's review process to resolve an issue. We've got one that's still going through some of these claims process. I'm not sure it should have taken quite that long, but anyway. No formal complaint raised during the year has so far been judged to have any factual support for being considered a breach of our code. Looking more widely at ethical issues in business during the year, the reporting of major ethical concerns in business doesn't seem to show any signs of slowing down. Whether that's more reporting or more unethical behaviour is hard to judge. Financial sector is right up there. Financial crime, bribery, corruption, conflicts of interest, remuneration issues, and mistreatment of stakeholders, be they customers or staff or suppliers, all continue to make headlines. And this continues to drive a government and regulatory response. Now, some of the MGAA sector might feel this response is disproportionate to the problems that we in the sector actually face. And while we can protest, that's not us. We can't be unaffected by the consequence as government and regulatory bodies square up to these headline issues. In our sector, the regulator's focus on conduct is really an issue for another committee. But the conduct of any business is driven by the behaviour and conduct of the individuals within it, which in turn is influenced by values, ethics and culture, which businesses can do something to manage. The regulator sees positive board attention to this area as critical to supporting the outcomes. But building a strong ethical component to your business shouldn't really just be driven by the FCA. A strong ethical approach would meet the growing needs of your other stakeholders, brokers, policyholders, staff and suppliers, each of which should be encouraged in any engagement with you by a strong ethical culture in your business. MGAs should embrace that to bring clear, practical and relevant to their own businesses focuses on values, ethics and culture. Insurance isn't a business that attracts strong customer reverence, and perhaps a strong business rather than regulatory focus on ethics and conduct would help change that. Externally, we've continued to develop links, or to try and develop links with Duncan Minty and the Minty Consultancy, and we'll continue that effort this year. And we value the work done on this front by the Institute of Business Ethics and the CII. We've managed an MGAA response to conduct issues drawn to our attention, and they don't in fact reveal any unethical conduct in terms of our code. We monitor wider press activity that affects where ethics impact on the MGA sector, and when we look at that over the last year, as well as general concerns for how an MGA might conduct itself, issues were often related to wider intermediation issues, including whistleblowing and the handling of whistleblowers. How many of you have got in place an up-to-date whistleblowing policy? Sorry, whistleblowers policy. Data and its misuse in underwriting and marketing, big data, personalised versus pooled underwriting all affect us, and the conflicts of interest and their management, particularly in multiple role intermediary firms, especially broker plus underwriting firms. And the challenge is extended by those of us who use AR business models. So an uneventful year for ethics, which sounds good, and my committee and I will be meeting later this week to lay out our plans for next year, which I think will probably include a really fresh look at the MGAA's ethics code to make sure that it's really up to date and fit for use. Thank you. Any questions? That's good.
Thank you, Charles. The Legal, Regulatory and Compliance Committee is chaired by Birrell, as I mentioned earlier, can't be with us today. So I'd like to ask David Coop to stand in his shoes and review the committee's work.
Thank you, Charles. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. As I say, Mark apologising. First of all, on Mark's behalf, I thank you to all the committee members for all the work they've done this year. It's always eventful in the regulatory industry, as you know. And if I could also just pass a note, I don't think he's here today, but just to thank James Gary, who the last 2 or 3 years has put a considerable amount of effort into the RLC. Obviously, had to step down for personal reasons last autumn. Regulation is top of the list for the UK CEOs at the moment, as a recent survey said, and so it should be, let's face it. Regulation at 5% cost for the industry is just poor, and it's going to become a real competitive barrier when it comes down to Brexit. So we on the committee are very, very concerned about where regulation is going and what has been happening in our little space. I think just turn the clock back, so it was 7 years ago, they didn't even know that MGAs existed at the FCA. So we've not done badly to get recognised, and you know, Jeff went through the list of people who actually talk to us on a day-by-day basis. It's pretty impressive that they do actually come and talk to us rather than us have to go and hit them every day. We do have regular meetings with the FCA. They're pretty full and frank, but you'd expect that with Mr. O'Hagan on the other side, so that's great, isn't it? And we got another one in April. So if you've got anything that you want us to raise with the FCA on a no-names basis in a full and frank way, we're delighted to do so, I promise you. Many of you were probably here for the annual annual meeting that we have with the FCA. Some quite interesting topics came up there. Brexit, well, it didn't really come up because they refused to actually ask the questions, but you can't really blame them because at that stage nobody sort of told them what it meant for them out of the halls of the Treasury. Appointed reps, well, the results of that weren't particularly surprising, I don't think. I think we all suspected that it was probably been abused as a regime, and I think that some people are now suffering with the fines that are coming through on that, and expect more on the appointed reps, I think, from them going forward. Consumer renewal disclosure, you know, you've got to go every 3 years to seek new quotes, etc., etc. I'm still not quite sure where that's going. Apparently there's further guidance coming out shortly on that, so watch this space. Financial Ombudsman. I think the Ombudsman, the consultation came through on the SMEs, and I think this is going to be something that we're going to have to watch quite carefully next year. There's been a whole list of questions that have come out in relation to questions on this. And if I can just read it, we will be putting something back when they put some consultation in it, but just if you just listen to these questions, do you agree with the introduction of risk-based levies? Do you believe that risk-based levies could be appropriate in relation to higher risk investments, insurance brokers who use unrated insurers? Do you agree to the principle that product providers should contribute towards FSCS funding relating to claims caused by intermediary defaults? So where the industry is going to end up with those sort of things, I'm not quite sure, but anyway, we will be putting some fairly strong representations with regard to that. And of course, then you have cyber risks. Cyber risks, cyber resilience, it's come to the top of the FCA's agenda, simply because I think of the failure of SSP for a few days, weeks and months, and loss of data. That will not go away. There are now people who are being audited on their IT and their ability and the resilience of it. So if you haven't been, to expect a little knock on the door, it may come your way. So we're very conscious about that as a trade body. We know that it matters to you. We know that Lloyds are putting in place new things with regard to cover holders and how their IT will work on that. And let's hope we all improve across the industry in that respect over the next year. We did respond to the FCA's mission statement on your behalf with regard to SMEs. We were quite pushy on that and said, no, we think it's wide enough. And we'll continue to look at all these sort of mission statements, consultations, and respond where we think appropriate. We're not there to just go back on things that we just don't apply to us. We only apply where you, as people, actually want us to respond. So if you think we should be responding, tell us. It's not easy for us to read your minds. We do push out mails to people saying, please, tell us what you think. But actually, it's really important to us for you to be telling us, when you read these things, what is important to you. We do monitor the legal and regulatory things. It isn't just this, the Insurance Act has now come in. There are a couple of specimen cases apparently going through the courts on a couple of bits of interpretation. Lord knows whether they'll be published, Lord knows whether they'll be settled, but people are trying to push those through to get some interpretation on that. That will be quite interesting to watch going forward. We publish the regulatory calendar every month. We're very grateful for Norman Hughes to presenting that for us, and that actually is an excellent tool for you to keep an eye on, because that tells you what's coming down the pipe. And there are compliance newsletters. I think there's one due next week. Is that correct?
The last one was 1st of February. Yes.
Yeah. So there's one due out very soon. And it's really important that reading that, you'll see what's coming out for you. Regulation is going to change hugely over the next year. We have the Compliance Managers Forum, which we run every couple of months. Tendencies up or down. But we had some good feedback at the last meeting, and we'd like to keep that feedback active in our minds, and we'll try to publish as much as we possibly can to keep you out there. And also we'll drive a closer relationship with Lloyds and the LMA. I think Peter's going to say some more about that from the Lloyds Market Forum. But yeah. So I'll leave that to Peter rather than sort of consultations. I just thought I'd throw out a few for you, just headline them for you. The IDD and the response to the IDD comes out on the 24th, so you've got a few days to wait. Keen anticipation, no doubt. And we'll see what they're going to say about commission disclosure. Review of the FSCS funding. We're going to respond on that. It'd be interesting to see exactly where they're going to go on that particular aspect. And lastly, on the senior managers and certification regime. It's not worked really in the insurance sector for the insurance underwriting. Even the PRA privately saying it's not quite worked. So it'll be interesting to see where they go with the brokers. The number of insurers and Lloyds agents are relatively small. If you go with 7,000 registered intermediaries with the FCA today, how can you actually roll the same regime out? It's going to be a lighter touch regime, we understand, but what a lighter touch regime actually means, I don't know. Anyway, short and sweet, I hope. Any questions, please? Well, when is the chance? Thank you.
Thank you, David. Now, I chair the Executive and Finance Committee, but Jane Calford has kindly volunteered to present the committee's work for us. So, over to you, Jane.
Okay. Well, I'll just stay here. This one will be short and sweet. So, we carry out a monthly review of the financials of the association, including monitoring the membership, renewals and the new members. We look at all the procedures of the association. It's the job of the committee to recommend the membership fees to the board, and they haven't changed now for 2 years. We also review the risk register, and high risks are reported at each meeting. The disaster recovery plan was updated following the office move. And I've got a note here on VAT registration because it's one of the things people ask. We are not registered for VAT, and this will only be required if we start charging for our events, which we're not currently doing. We continue to have a working capital of 6 months operating costs held in the deposit account, and the committee monitors cash flow on a monthly basis. And of course, probably the most important thing is the management of the executive team, to make sure we're doing what we're supposed to do. Any questions?
Okay. That concludes the directors' reports, which outline the important work each of the committees has been involved in. I'd also like at this stage to thank my fellow directors for chairing the committees, and also the other members of various committees who aren't directors but have equally contributed to their work. So thank you very much all. Today's meeting has been called to receive the Association's annual report and accounts for the financial year ending 31st August 2016. The directors' report on those accounts, and to confirm the appointment of Butler & Co. as accountants to the MGAA. So, all those in favour, please. Any against? Thank you very much. Any questions on the report of the accounts? Thank God for that. The Articles of Association, a special resolution to properly revise the Articles of Association, which include the following changes: to provide for a supplier member made up of one person, and that each director should stand for a term of 4 years. We sometimes get some friendly suppliers who provide us with assistance and aren't really firms in their own right. They're just individual sole traders, and so we wanted to allow them to be able to join. We also seem at some point in the past to come up with a directorship rotation that all directors would cease to stand for re-election at the same time. So theoretically, we had a complete change of board at the same time, which we thought was probably not ideal. And so what we're going to do is change it that each director stands for a term of 4 years, and to achieve a rollover of the last 3 directors to stand for re-election in 2018, whereby their next 4-year term of office will expire in 2022. And all directors elected in 2016, which includes me, will have a period of office of 4 years, serving until 2020, when they can be eligible to stand for re-election. That way, we don't have the possibility of losing everybody all at once. The director elected in 2017, the Market Practitioner member, will have a term of office of 3 years to bring this in line with the main board elections in 2020, and thereafter will have a term of office of 4 years to bring it in line with the main board election. The supplier member director elected in 2016 will have a period of office of 4 years, serving until 2020, to bring it in line with the main board. The next term of office will be for a 4-year period. Are there any questions on this? No? So could I ask a member to propose the special resolution, please? Come on, I'll propose it. I think we need a full member, do we?
Need a full member. Thank you.
Thank you. And a seconder, please. Thank you. That, ladies, concludes the formal part of our proceedings. Any questions? I've now now like to ask Peter Stadden, the MGAA Managing Director, to take us through what the association will be focusing on throughout 16 and throughout 17, what it has done for 16.
Thank you. Obviously, you can see up on the board and on your handouts what we've been looking at. So I won't go through them, but just want to pick up a few things, if I may. We obviously, as Charles rightly pointed out during his discussion, that we are waiting for members to come up with some problems if they see it. One of those problems that we had related to IT, and from that particular item we were able to put forward a bulletin, which is very helpful. We've had another one, and again this has been alluded to, and this is the guidance on increasing transparency about renewals. David, absolutely right. I actually, with Norman, great help, Norman, thank you for this. We've got some papers here, so I've only got 3 copies, but it shows you what we're trying to do. So we are reactive to your particular issues, but we're very proactive when we get that. So again, please, from Jane and I, if anything's coming up that's bothering you, please come and talk to us, and we'll see what we can do. We have, Charles again talked about the Institute of Business Ethics, and we'll see what they're doing, and they're a great source of information from us. And again, we are looking at our own codes to make sure it's fit for purpose in today's environment, both as MGAA and also MGA members. So we're looking at that. We will continue our relationship with Treasury and HMRC. Many of you will realise that the autumn statement talked about an increase in IPT from 10 to 12 from the 1st of June. And that will come out in the budget due next month. What you probably don't realise is working with the London market, I'm having on average weekly meetings. You wouldn't believe the problems that are coming out with regard to that particular issue. And what is interesting is there has been a suggestion that save all the aggravation post 1st of June, if there is an MTA midterm adjustment or an addition, i.e. a change of vehicle on the contract, then the higher rate will charge. Well, the problem being is we think that could well be in breach of FCA rules, treating customers fairly. So we've got 2 government departments, because that's what FCA are, and a lot of each other, and we're trying to get a smooth path. And we'll continue that relationship with Treasury and HMRC, and we're working very closely with the London market to actually get consensus on that. Again, David mentioned the Lloyd's Market Forum, and Keith's been a great source of help for us here on this. We are an associate member of the LMA, and they are an associate member of us. So next week on the 22nd, or this week I should say, we actually got a meeting, our very first meeting. We've got a huge number of people that have joined us, and we're going to be looking at the London market, the Lloyd's market, where there are some snagging areas. There's some great stuff being done by the Paul Brady's DUA team, and Lindsay Davis will join us on this particular market. So again, we're beginning to interact with Lloyd's in a great way to making sure that things like audits are actually going to go through much more smoothly. And I think we have to applaud what Lloyd's are trying to do on this, and we need to be on this path with them going forward. There are lots of things that are going on. You know, if I carry on talking, I'll be here until tomorrow night. But what we are saying, if there is one thing that I will ask you to do and take away today, is talk to us. It may be something quite minor, and let's go back to this thing that we did with our friends at Brown Jacobson. Well, it's purely to do with setting together a new IT system. And when we had a discussion, the board talked about this, we put together some protocols, we came out and Mark did a fantastic presentation, and I'm regularly asked for copies of this. And it came out from a throwaway comment that I've had this problem with IT, and this is what's happened to me. And it's really great. We need to know what's going on. So, my plea to you all, engage with us more. Talk to us. Don't join in. And let's see if we can push this forward. And don't forget, of course, Brexit is knocking at the door. And again, we're going to be working with the London Market Group. Because working with these organisations, we have a better voice. The voice can be heard, and we can get a consensus of opinion.
Thank you, Peter. Any questions, Tom? Right, and so the next item that I have here is any other business, and anything that you'd like to raise at all. I'm not going to advise on any other business, but anybody has anything? Okay, well, before I close the general meeting, I'd like to extend board and executive thanks to our consultants and advisors. Dave Matcham at the RUA, our landlord, who's been extremely supportive. David Coop at EC3 Legal, our legal advisor. Norman Hughes, who's had plenty of mentions in dispatches, as our compliance advisor. And Alex Wise at Full Circle Communications, our PR advisor. Finally, if you've not already signed the attendance register, can you please make sure that you do this? Jane will be at the desk outside, apparently. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the proceedings.